The galaxy was vast, filled with billions of stars, countless planets, and civilizations both young and ancient. Yet even in all that endless expanse, there were places no one dared to go. Some regions were too unstable, torn apart by black holes or violent storms of energy. Others were marked as sacred by older species. And then there was the Forbidden Zone. The Forbidden Zone was unlike any other place in known space. It wasn't just dangerous, it was a mystery older than the Council itself. Every star map, every teaching, every archive repeated the same warning. No ship should enter, no crew should attempt to cross. Those who tried were never seen again. Alien historians often debated what had created it. Some believed it was the graveyard of an ancient war, fought long before the younger species had learned to use fire. Others whispered that it was a scar left by beings who had power beyond imagination. Whatever the truth, it was a place no empire could control, no explorer could map. It was as if space itself refused to be understood. The zone was silent, cold, and impossible. From a distance it looked normal, stars twinkling in the black, gas clouds drifting like smoke across the void. But the moment ships approached its edges, navigation failed, engines stalled, and communication went dark. Even the bravest captains turned back rather than risk vanishing into nothing. That was why, when long-range sensors picked up a signal from deep inside the zone, the galaxy could hardly believe it. At first, the data seemed corrupted. Machines glitched, screens flickered, and the signal almost looked like a trick. But after hours of study, the truth came out. There was a vessel there. Not just any vessel, a human vessel. The shock was immediate. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, voices clashed. Representatives from dozens of species demanded answers. How could a human craft be in the most forbidden place of all? Humans were known across the stars, yes, but they were still young compared to the elder races. Their fleets were powerful, their spirit unbreakable, but even they had limits. And the zone had been one of those limits. Until now, the first images were grainy, pulled from unstable probes that had barely survived before burning out. The ship was there, floating calmly as if it had always belonged. It wasn't a wreck. Its lights were active, its systems powered. Yet it did not move. It sat in the dead center of the zone, silent and waiting, as though it had been placed there deliberately. The question burned in every mind. How had it gotten there? Aliens across many worlds began whispering theories. Some said the humans had discovered a hidden path, some ancient key that allowed safe passage. Others believed it was no ordinary ship but a weapon, a new creation humans had kept secret, one that could move where no other could. The darker rumors claimed it wasn't human at all, that something else had built it and only disguised it as human to spread fear. The Council struggled to keep control as panic spread. Fleets in nearby sectors were put on alert. Civilian traffic was rerouted away from the zone. News channels replayed the same blurred images over and over, the outline of the vessel, its human design unmistakable. What made it worse was that Earth remained silent. When asked, the human representatives denied sending any ship there. They insisted none of their fleets had gone missing. No mission had been launched. Their words only deepened the mystery. If they hadn't sent it, who had? Meanwhile, the vessel itself did nothing. Days passed. Weeks. It did not move, did not send messages, did not react to the probes that tried to study it. It just sat there like a monument, glowing faintly in the endless dark. But for those who watched, the silence was louder than any threat. Because the ship's very presence was impossible. The Forbidden Zone had swallowed every intruder for centuries. Yet here was a vessel untouched, unharmed, and undeniably human. Stories spread quickly across the stars. In crowded spaceports, travelers spoke of it in hushed voices. Was it a warning? A sign of war to come? Or a miracle no one could explain? Some claimed to dream of it, the image of the lone ship haunting their sleep. Others swore it was a ghost, a trick of the zone itself. But whatever the truth, one fact could not be denied. The Forbidden Zone had been broken. A place once thought untouchable now held a vessel from Earth. And though no one could explain how it had arrived, everyone understood one thing clearly. Nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The human vessel remained motionless in the heart of the Forbidden Zone, and the galaxy could not look away. Every hour that passed seemed to tighten the grip of unease around the Council and its member worlds. The zone had always been silent. It had never allowed intruders. Yet now a single ship sat there calmly like it belonged. and it refused to vanish like all others before it. The council knew something had to be done. At first, they tried to study it from afar, fleets parked at the edges of the zone, carefully keeping their distance. Long-range sensors strained to lock onto the mysterious vessel. Probes were launched, tiny, expendable machines sent to pierce the strange barrier of the zone and bring back answers. The first probe disintegrated before it even crossed the border. The second returned only fragments of data before vanishing in a burst of static. The third managed to survive longer, enough to send back clearer images. The human vessel's hull was sharp and clean, not the shattered wreck some had expected. Its running lights glowed faintly, proving its systems were still alive. But the strangest part was the energy around it. According to the readings, the ship wasn't trapped or damaged. Instead, it was perfectly stable, shielded from the chaotic storms that destroyed all other technology. It sat in a calm pocket, untouched by the forces that twisted space around it. It was as if the zone itself had chosen to spare this one vessel. The findings caused more fear than comfort. If the zone was capable of allowing ships to survive, then why this ship? Why a human design? Theories grew wild. Some believed the humans had secretly mastered forbidden science and were testing it here, in the most dangerous place possible. Others argued that the vessel was bait, placed there to lure the galaxy into a trap. More superstitious voices claimed it was cursed, an echo of the past left by civilizations long gone, disguised in human form to confuse and terrify. But speculation was not enough. The council needed real answers. After long hours of heated debate, they voted to send a coalition mission. Small ships from different species would attempt to approach, working together to uncover the truth. It was a dangerous decision. Captains who received the orders were not eager. Many had grown up hearing ghost stories of the zone, the way entire fleets had disappeared without leaving even wreckage behind. But duty was stronger than fear, and the mission was prepared. The coalition ships moved carefully. Engines roared at the edge of the zone, their crews sweating under the strain of systems pushed beyond safe limits. Warnings screamed from control panels as they crossed the threshold. One vessel lost power instantly, drifting back until it was towed to safety. Another burst into flames and had to eject its crew into escape pods before being destroyed. But 2 ships survived long enough to continue. Their feeds crackled into the council's grand chamber, showing the world what only legends had described. Inside the zone, light twisted unnaturally. Stars looked bent, as if reality itself was folding in on them. Strange shadows moved across the dark, yet there was no source of them. Every system strained to function, and then through the chaos the human vessel came into view. The crews described it as eerily calm. Unlike their own struggling ships, the human craft floated easily, untouched. Its hull shimmered faintly, almost as if it was wrapped in a cloak of energy. No damage, no distress, it looked deliberate. As the coalition drew closer, things went wrong. Navigation systems failed. Engines sputtered. One pilot shouted in panic as their ship spun uncontrollably, forcing them to pull back. The other vessel tried to maintain course, but every move it made was resisted, like invisible hands were pushing it away. Finally, the mission had to be aborted. The council listened in silence as the surviving crews described what they had seen. The human vessel had remained silent and still, but its very presence bent the zone around it. Approaching it was not impossible, but it was costly, perhaps suicidal. The failure left the galaxy even more divided. Some species demanded the humans explain themselves. They accused Earth of lying, hiding a dangerous experiment that could threaten everyone. Others, however, looked at the humans with fear rather than anger. If this vessel truly wasn't theirs, then something else was at work. Something that had chosen to copy human design. Meanwhile, civilians across the stars grew restless. On crowded trade stations and quiet colonies in the bustling cities of countless worlds, people gathered to discuss the strange event. Every news broadcast replayed the same shaky footage of the vessel, sitting in the void like a ghost. Children asked their parents why a human ship was in the most cursed place in the galaxy. Traders wondered if the discovery would spark a war. Pilots whispered that the zone would never again be silent. And Earth denied everything. Their representatives swore no ship had been lost, no expedition had been sent. To them, the mystery was as shocking as it was to anyone else. But their words did not satisfy the galaxy. Suspicion lingered like a storm cloud. If they truly had nothing to do with it, then why did the vessel look so perfectly human? Why were its markings identical to those of Earth's fleets? The unanswered questions only grew heavier with each passing day. As weeks turned into months, the human vessel continued to wait in silence. It never moved, never responded to signals, never showed signs of life. But to the galaxy, its presence was louder than any words. The forbidden zone had been broken. Probes had failed. Fleets had faltered. But the human vessel remained untouchable, as if it had been placed there for a reason. And though no one could say how it had gotten there, one truth was clear: this was not an accident. Something wanted the galaxy to see it. Something had chosen this moment. And whatever that something was, the galaxy had no idea whether it was a promise or a threat. For weeks, the galaxy had been restless. The image of that single human vessel in the Forbidden Zone had traveled across every screen, every news broadcast, every conversation in crowded spaceports. The questions were endless and the answers never came. The Galactic Council had already spent long sessions arguing, demanding explanations from Earth. Finally, the humans were called again to stand before the Council. Their representatives walked into the chamber under the gaze of dozens of alien delegations. The questions were sharp. Why is your vessel inside the zone? What technology have you created that allows this? What are you hiding from the rest of the galaxy? But the human reply was the same as before. They had not sent any ship. They had no expeditions, no missing vessels, no secret programs. Their fleets were fully accounted for. According to Earth, they were just as shocked as everyone else. The denial sent a wave of unease through the chamber. Some representatives believed them. They had seen humans fight to survive on harsh worlds, but they had also seen their honesty in past struggles. Others shook their heads in disbelief. To them, humans were too bold, too unpredictable. If anyone had tried to pierce the mysteries of the zone, it would be them. The debate grew heated, but the vessel itself gave no answers. It remained there, lights glowing faintly as if listening. Across the galaxy, ordinary people reacted in their own ways. In busy markets, traders spoke in whispers. If the humans didn't send it, then who did? And why make it look human? On farming worlds, families stared at the night sky, wondering if war was about to begin. In the training halls of young cadets, instructors warned that the balance of power could change forever because of that one ship. Back on Earth, the weight of suspicion was heavy. Governments repeated their denial, but many humans themselves were uneasy. If their own kind hadn't placed the ship there, what force had chosen to copy their design? Some feared it was a message, a warning directed at humanity alone. Others believed it might be an invitation, though no one could say from whom. The Council eventually sent more missions, though none dared push too far. Probes still burned out quickly, and small ships were forced to retreat. The mysterious vessel never reacted, but its silence was worse than any open threat. And then something strange happened. A coalition fleet monitoring the zone intercepted fragments of a transmission. The signal came in broken pieces, almost too weak to decode. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a navigation beacon, it was language. What unsettled everyone was that the language shifted. First it echoed in the tongues of ancient empires, languages no longer spoken. Then it shifted into the speech of current council members, switching one by one, cycling through words from dozens of civilizations. And finally it spoke in human tongue, clear, steady, undeniable, but the message was incomplete. Only a few words broke through before the signal cut off. Words like wait, observe, and not yours. The discovery shook the galaxy again. For the first time, the vessel had spoken, or something aboard it had. Yet the meaning was unclear. Was it warning them away? Was it telling them the ship belonged to another? Or was it testing them? The Council demanded an explanation from Earth again, this time with greater urgency. But Earth repeated what they had always said. The ship was not theirs. They had never received such transmissions. And yet, because the final words were in human tongue, suspicion burned hotter than ever. The silence between civilizations grew colder. Some species began moving their fleets closer to human territory. Afraid the mystery vessel was a sign of hidden power, others urged calm, warning that pushing too hard might trigger a conflict no one could contain. On civilian worlds, fear grew. Merchants avoided routes near human colonies. Ordinary travelers worried about being caught in a war sparked by something no one understood. And still, the human vessel remained motionless in the Forbidden Zone, calm as ever, as though waiting for the galaxy to unravel around it. Inside the council halls, one thought grew stronger with every passing day. If the humans were telling the truth, then the galaxy faced something even more dangerous. Because if this vessel was not theirs, it meant another force, unknown, unseen, had chosen to appear in the most forbidden place of all, and had chosen to wear the image of humanity to do it. Why humans? Why now? The questions echoed without end. And so Part 3 closed with an unsettling truth. The galaxy did not know whether to fear humanity, or fear the unknown intelligence that had placed the human vessel inside the zone. The galaxy had waited in silence for too long. The human vessel in the Forbidden Zone had not moved, had not spoken again, and had given no answers. Its stillness had become unbearable. Every day more voices demanded action. The council, under pressure from frightened citizens and angry leaders, finally reached a decision. They could not just watch any longer. They had to make contact. It was not an easy choice. Everyone remembered what had happened to the coalition ships that tried to approach before. But fear of the unknown was worse than fear of loss. And so once again, ships were sent forward, this time with more preparation. The new mission was different. Instead of small scout vessels, the council authorized a fleet of warships, each one armed and shielded to the maximum. If the zone destroyed them, so be it. But if the human vessel posed a threat, they would answer with force. The fleet crossed the threshold carefully. Engines trembled as they entered the unstable space. Lights dimmed, alarms flashed, but the ships pressed on. Every captain knew this could be their last flight, yet none turned back. The council chamber back home was silent as live feeds streamed across enormous screens. Billions of eyes across the galaxy watched from their own worlds, holding their breath. And then, the human vessel appeared again. It floated exactly as before, glowing faintly, calm and untouched by the chaos. But this time, the fleet did not stop at a distance. They pushed closer. Shields flickered, hulls groaned, but they advanced until the human vessel filled their view. For long moments, nothing happened. The mysterious ship gave no sign of life, no signal, no change. The fleet commanders grew nervous. Some wanted to fire warning shots, others demanded patience. The debate raged over the comms until suddenly, everything changed. The vessel lit up. Its running lights brightened all at once, flooding the dark with an eerie glow. Strange symbols flashed across its hull, patterns no one had ever seen before. They pulsed like a heartbeat in rhythms that made no sense to the alien observers. And then came the sound. Not a human voice, not a council tongue, but a burst of signals too fast, too layered to understand. The fleet scrambled to decode it, but before they could, the vessel moved. It was a small movement, but it was enough to shake the galaxy. For centuries, the zone had destroyed every ship that tried to maneuver inside it. Physics itself seemed to reject motion there. Yet this human vessel shifted gracefully, sliding across the void as if nothing bound it. Gasps filled the council chamber as they watched the impossible happen. The fleet panicked. Several ships powered their weapons, alarms blaring. Commanders shouted conflicting orders, unsure whether to attack or retreat. The mysterious vessel ignored them all. Instead, it turned. The ship rotated slowly, almost deliberately, until its front faced the approaching fleet. Its glowing patterns changed again, forming shapes that looked uncomfortably close to letters. And then, the voices came. This time, the words were clear. In dozens of languages, the vessel spoke at once. The voices overlapped, alien tongues, ancient dialects, and finally, the human language itself. The message was simple, chilling, and impossible to ignore. You should not be here. The fleet froze. No one dared fire. No one dared move. The words repeated, sharper this time. You should not be here. Across the galaxy, those watching felt their hearts pound. Who was speaking? Was it the humans? Was it some intelligence using their image as a mask? And what did the warning mean? Some ships tried to answer. A council captain broadcast a peaceful greeting, begging for communication. Another demanded to know why the vessel was here. But before the words could echo back, the mysterious ship acted again. The space around it shifted. Energy swirled, bending the stars like liquid. Instruments screamed as readings jumped to levels no one had ever recorded. And then, without warning, one of the fleet's warships vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded, just gone. The panic was instant. Crews shouted, shields flared, and weapons powered up across the fleet. But the mysterious vessel did not fire. It did not move aggressively. It simply spoke again. Leave. The command rang out across every comm channel, every frequency, every screen. Even on planets far from the zone, the message echoed faintly, slipping through communications like a ghost. Billions heard it, and billions felt the same chill in their bones. The fleet had no choice. Fear overwhelmed them. One by one, ships turned and limped back toward the edge of the zone. Engines burned hot, shields strained, but they fled as fast as they could. The mysterious vessel did not pursue. It simply dimmed its lights and returned to silence, floating once more as if nothing had happened. When the fleet returned, their reports only deepened the confusion. The missing warship had not been destroyed. It had simply ceased to exist. No wreckage, no distress beacon, no trace. It was as if it had been erased from reality. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some leaders demanded war against humanity, convinced the vessel was their weapon. Others argued that nothing human could have such power, and that the real danger was something far older, something no one yet understood. On Earth, the denial was louder than ever. They repeated again that the vessel was not theirs. They swore no human hand had placed it there. Yet the fear did not fade. If they truly had no control, then what was the meaning of the ship's words? Why had it chosen to appear in human form? Across the stars, civilians reacted with terror and fascination. Some feared that the vessel was a warning of extinction, a guardian of the zone waking at last. Others believed it was a test and that whoever passed would gain power beyond imagination. But one truth spread faster than all the rumors. The Forbidden Zone was no longer silent. A human vessel had spoken, moved and shown strength no one could explain. It had given the galaxy a warning in words that could not be ignored. You should not be here. And now the galaxy faced a choice. Listen to that warning and stay away, or risk everything to uncover the truth behind the impossible ship. The galaxy had never been so unsettled. The image of the human vessel glowing in the Forbidden Zone was no longer just a mystery. It was now a threat. It had spoken. It had moved. And in one terrifying moment, it had made an entire warship vanish without leaving even a trace. The message was clear. You should not be here. But what did that mean? Was the warning meant only for the fleet? Or was it for the entire galaxy? No one could agree. The council sat in endless meetings, each session filled with shouting fear and anger. Some species wanted to attack the vessel with everything they had, to destroy it before it could destroy them. Others argued that such power could not be fought, that attacking it might provoke something even worse. And then there were those who stared at the humans with suspicion. They could not shake the thought that this vessel, with its unmistakable human design, must be connected to Earth. Even if the humans swore again and again that it wasn't theirs, doubt clung like a shadow. Why else would the ship appear in their image? Why else would it speak their language so clearly? The humans, meanwhile, carried their own fear. Ordinary people on Earth and its colonies watched the reports with unease. They had never felt so exposed. If the vessel truly was connected to them somehow, then they might become the target of every other civilization. If it wasn't, then perhaps the galaxy would still blame them for it. Either way, the weight of the mystery pressed down heavily on humanity's shoulders, but silence could not last forever. Weeks passed, and then something new happened. Without warning, the human vessel transmitted again. This time the signal was stronger, cutting across all channels in the galaxy. No one could block it. No one could escape it. On every world, on every ship, on every screen, the same voice spoke. It was calm, steady, and carried no emotion. And yet its words chilled everyone who heard them. We should not have been seen. The message paused, as if the vessel itself was aware that billions were listening. Then the voice continued. Forget us. And then silence. For a few seconds, no one knew how to react. Entire planets stopped moving as people froze to listen. Fleets stood still in space. Even the council chamber fell quiet. 2 sentences, spoken in every language at once, had brought the galaxy to a standstill. But before anyone could respond, the vessel made its final move. Light exploded across the Forbidden Zone. Not a weapon's fire, Not destruction, but a burst of energy so bright it washed over the stars. For a heartbeat, it was as though a second sun had ignited, and then as quickly as it came, the light was gone. So was the vessel. One moment it had been there, clear and undeniable. The next it was nothing. No debris, no energy trail, no warp signature. It had vanished as if it had never existed at all. The forbidden zone returned to silence, its dark clouds drifting peacefully once more. The galaxy's sensors scanned every corner, desperate to find some trace, but there was nothing. The human vessel had simply erased itself from reality. And so the questions returned, heavier than ever. What had the vessel been? A weapon? A warning? A traveler lost in time? If it had not belonged to the humans, then why had it taken their shape? Why had it spoken in their language? Why had it told them to forget? Some believed it was proof of something greater, that humanity was tied to mysteries far older than the galaxy understood, that the ship was a glimpse of their future or perhaps their past, bleeding into the present. Others believed it was a test by the builders of the Forbidden Zone, a test the galaxy had failed. And then there were those who obeyed the voice. They did not speak of it anymore. They treated the event as a shadow, something to be ignored, forgotten, as if the memory itself was dangerous. But not everyone could forget. The council still argued in secret chambers. Fleets still trained for the possibility that the vessel, or something like it, might return, and humans themselves could not let go of the fear that their species had been chosen for a reason no one could yet understand. For the people of the galaxy, the story of the vessel became more than just a mystery. It became a legend, whispered in spaceports and retold in colonies. A legend of the day the Forbidden Zone was broken, the day a human vessel appeared where none should, and the day it vanished before anyone could explain how. The galaxy moved on, as it always did. Trade routes reopened, travelers set out again, and daily life continued. But under the surface, the memory never faded. Every time someone looked at the stars, they wondered if the vessel was still out there, unseen, waiting. And deep down, everyone carried the same uneasy thought. The vessel had not said we should not be here. It had said we should not have been seen, which meant it was still out there, watching. And perhaps one day the galaxy would see it again.